Chapter 9 is about introducing and concluding your speech. First, we'll be going over the purpose of introductions. The purpose of your introduction should cover 5 main functions: grabbing the audience's attention, providing a reason to listen, introducing the subject, establishing credibility, and previewing main ideas. When you begin by grabbing the audience's attention, you want to provide favorable and positive attention grabbers. Try not to disgust or alienate. You will turn off the audience from your speech. Also, you want to take into consideration your audience, age, gender, demographics, etc. Your second point will provide the audience with a reason to listen. You would want to establish a listening motivation and use proximity. Well, what's proximity? Proximity is the degree to which the information affects your audience directly or indirectly. So this will entail the listening motivation. This will provide your audience with the reasons and ways that your topic will directly affect them. Once you provide the audience with a reason to listen, you want to introduce the subject. I advise being short and sweet. Don't take too long, you'll lose your audience. You want to keep your central idea in the introduction and just tell the audience what you'll be speaking about. Once you introduce the subject, you'll want to establish credibility. Why should you listen to me? What makes you an expert on the subject? You want to come off as confident, trustworthy, and as a believable authority. If you have all of these qualities, your audience will be more likely to listen to you. And lastly, after you establish credibility, you'll want to preview your main ideas. This will give the audience an idea of what you will be talking about throughout your speech. This will also enhance the listener's learning. It'll reinforce the topics you'll speak about, and again, draw them in your conclusion.
With writing an introduction, there are a variety of ways that you could start. Today I'm going to show you 5 different ways to start an effective introduction. The first way is to use illustrations or anecdotes. Illustrations being a PowerPoint or some type of visual object, anecdotes being a story. You want to use them to gain your audience's attention and use it as an umbrella for the rest of the speech. The second one is going to be giving a startling fact or statistic. You're going to use that to make your audience go ooh and ah at the statistic, to make them drawn in more into the speech, wonder why that statistic is like that. The third one is using a quotations. In your speech, you may not be the most sourceful. You may not be the most knowledgeable on the speech. So using a quote by someone who is more known really adds to your knowledge on the speech. Also, using a quote can centralize your theme and your points. It can also be used in combination with others, such as an anecdote or a visual representation. A fourth one is to use humor. It really gets the attention of the audience, and also is used as a relief if it gets too tense in the beginning and really adds to the audience's level of stress. The fifth effective introduction I will end with is the questions portion of an introduction. You can use questions to be thought-provoking and to also have your audience drawn more in depth into your speech. With your questions, you want to make them rhetorical. You don't just want to ask, how many of you have ever ridden a bus? You want to also make sure the delivery of the question is precise. You don't want to seem too bland. You want to seem too excited. You You want to ask it just right.
I'm going to share with you another 5 introduction techniques you can use. The first one would be referencing historical events. Every day is the anniversary of something. Whatever your speech is about, look for an historical event that has something very similar to do with it, and it'll enhance your speech. It'll have much more power behind it, and it'll show that this is something that's happened in the past and could happen again. The second technique I'm going to teach you is referencing current events. Referencing current events, it increases your credibility because it shows you know what's going on in now, and it also shows that you're knowledgeable in what's going on now. A current event doesn't have to happen necessarily within a week or a month. It can happen a year ago and still be considered recent if it's pertaining to the topic. The third technique I'm going to teach you is personal references. What this does is it gets a bond between you and your audience because you personally went through it yourself. For example, let's say you're talking about losing weight. You'd want to share if you did it too. Not only that, it also shows that you're credible in what you're talking about because you went through it yourself. The last introduction technique I'm going to teach you about is referencing a preceding speech. Let's say somebody gave a speech right before you and they talked about the same thing you're going to talk about. You need to make a decision on whether you want to change your speech up or if you want to use their speech to your advantage. You can say what they said and enhance your speech.
Let's talk about the purpose of conclusion. This is your final chance to make a lasting impression on your audience. The main purpose of conclusion is to provide closure. Time to make your speech sound finished. What you want to do is summarize your speech, reviewing your main ideas and emphasizing on your central topic and idea in a way that your audience won't forget. Maybe using a little humor or speaking more passionately while restating your main ideas. When concluding your speech, you want to give nonverbal or verbal clues to signal the end of the speech. After signaling a conclusion, don't prolong the speech, but end it quickly. Some verbal cues may be saying "in conclusion," which some instructors may not like, but it's not illegal. Or saying "finally" or "for my last point" are also some verbal cues. For some nonverbal cues, pausing between the body and conclusion, or a falling voice inflection, or moving from behind the podium to make your final plea with the audience. Also, motivate a response in concluding. Get the audience involved. This is an action step. Involve the audience by asking a question to get an immediate response, or commanding an immediate response, such as having the audience repeat something you would like them to remember, or recommending specific action steps for them to take based off of your main points. This is the purpose of concluding.
When wrapping up your conclusion, there are some different ways that you can make it more effective. One way is by using methods that you used in the introduction, such as another quote, finishing a story you used in the beginning, or answering a question you used for a rhetorical question. Another way is by using references to the introduction, such as repeating your 3 main points and alluding to your central theme that your topic was about. The big point of a conclusion is to leave your audience on a high. You want to make them feel really happy about your speech is concluding. So you want to rouse the audience. Your conclusions to be the climax, really the uphill ladder, and then it stays at the top so everyone's happy. Example of this is James W. Robinson's speech. He gave a graduation speech for a son named Doug. Robinson is a reporter for NBC, and he had recently interviewed a man whose son died in a tornado. The man said his last thing he wanted to do with his son was to play a game of baseball. So at the end of Robinson's speech for his son, he tossed a baseball to his son. So the effectiveness of the baseball showed that no matter what tragedy you go through or what happiness you go through, make sure that you spend time with others. And it really left the audience on a high. So when you're concluding your speech, make sure you give it a nice climax, a nice central point that makes everyone happy at the end. To wrap up what we have said today to you, the point of all our speeches was to give you the purpose for an introduction, how to give an effective introduction, the purpose of conclusion, and how to give an effective conclusion. I hope this was informational for you today, and I hope you have a good day.